Okay, well,
you today?
happy Easter.
Happy Easter week. Yes. What
Yeah.
what do your Easter festivities look like?
Well, we'll have a Easter um, dinner and up at the big house here, and my son's coming down from Flagstaff. He and his wife and kids, so it'll be a nice,
Nice.
lovely time.
Good.
Yeah. And
Good,
John
good, good.
and my son Bob is coming up from Austin, and John is here, so it'll be a family reunion.
Oh, that's so nice. Good.
Yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good, good.
All right.
So, how are you feeling? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and things are coming along. And
Good.
interestingly enough, um, the divine uh, timing of things right now is so awesome. Not only is it Easter time, coming up, but this is that's on March 31st.
Hmm.
And then my paperback book does its debut on the 2nd of March, of April. And I was talking to a Rose yesterday who had been talking to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's son, Ken, and he has been taking her book on death and dying around the world the past year. And in the month just prior to this, it has sold more books than it ever sold at one time while Elizabeth was alive.
Wow.
And now the world is reaching for that kind of information. And the thing about this for me adds up to the fact that when Elizabeth was on this dimension, and she and I used to share a podium periodically around different places when people were asking for information. And she would talk about birthing into the next dimension, and I would be talking about birthing into this one. It was like a smooth flow
Mm.
that we worked with and enjoyed so much. We enjoyed each other's company anyway. You were her
But
doctor. Huh?
you were her doctor.
Yes, and I was her doctor, and so we were working with this whole process. And now, today, we're being able to share this with each other on a completely different dimension that has such uh, universal uh, outreach that I've never could have imagined anything like it, and I'm sure Elizabeth couldn't have either. So it's that kind of a wow day, The sun comes up and look at that beautiful day.
Yes. Can you explain to everyone who might not know just who is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and what was her, what did she do? What was her story?
She, in the 60s, 50s and 60s, introduced to people the concept of really being aware of what death is about. Her book on death and dying was a classic, and it's still being used, I think, in many universities and schools where people are wanting to understand the I guess you call it the process of death and dying, so that you don't have to enter into the actual experience with fear and trepidation
Mhm.
and thoughts of just bad thoughts, so that you can move into that dimension with the understanding that life goes on and you are moving to a new phase of your own living experience. And as you do that, you move forward into the light of the future of love and life, and not into a dark hole of something that scares you so badly you don't even mention it or think about it. And in order to make that more real for me, I'm wearing this necklace that the Afghani woman, the woman who was pregnant at the time when I went to Afghanistan to help them with their concepts about birthing on this dimension, she was pregnant and she was due to deliver, and we had thought she might have her baby while we were there, but she didn't. But we went through the whole process anyway. And this is a necklace that she had made herself. It's a wonderfully beaded
Beautiful.
necklace. So it ties in uh, my concepts and thoughts about death as as I think about the loving life experience that I have had experienced with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And to me, this is just absolutely awesome to have it on Easter weekend, and to be able to share this with
Mm.
people around the world is just divinely orchestrated.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I actually have never read that book. I need to read that book.
Oh, you need to. Yeah.
Um, as I was sharing with you just on Monday, my mother-in-law, when I
Yeah.
was grandmother to my children, just passed away. And she passed away, I like to think of it, on the full moon lunar eclipse. She took that window and made her exit. And the thing that was so amazing, and this goes along with, I'm sure, what Elizabeth's book, shares, is she was 95 years old and she had she had no regrets. She was really vibrant and with it up until 1 week before she passed.
Yeah.
And I had the great pleasure of being with her on Friday afternoons. They took turns having caregivers go and just be with her so she wasn't alone. So we would have lunch together, we would chat, and then she would take a nap. And I was able to ask her just a lot of questions because she was so okay with dying. Like,
Yes.
I've never been with someone who was so okay with it and so ready for it. And she knew exactly where she was going. And she had no fear, no trepidation. And every night she would pray that God would take her, and she would wake up every morning and say, okay, well, I have another miraculous day on this planet. Let's see what amazing things are going to be in store for me today, because the Lord gave me another day. And it was just such a beautiful thing to witness, that kind of energy and attitude moving into this next phase.
I know when you're in the presence of that kind of uh, love, and it, it's awesome. It's like when my father died. My mother had died before, and so he had remarried, and Mother Daniels and he were living in Pennsylvania, but he wanted to be buried here. He got sick, and they wanted to be buried here where mom's grave is. So 2 weeks before uh, he died, he came to Phoenix, and we put him right into the hospital because he was so sick. And then uh, when he was, we were watching, he was with hospice and so on. And I was there when he was ready. I took Mother Daniels, that's his wife at this point in time, to the hospital, and we were there. And it was obvious that he was just working, just carrying the process right through to the end.
Mm.
And so Mother Daniels began singing, God be with you till we meet again. And his lips moved with hers until he had made the transition. And so, with tears of joy and sadness combined, the two of us left the hospital. And on the way out, I said to her, don't you know there's a jubilation on the other side right now? Because I could see my mother welcoming him on the other side with joy and happiness, and basically saying, okay, John, now it's time for you to come on over here, or something like that, that would allow his soul to move with
Mhm.
joy and happiness into the other dimension. And it's that kind of a true understanding of how life needs to move, and life and love need to be with one with the other as a continuous stream of the divine energy that gives us our individual persona and our individual lifetimes. I mean, and to be able to talk, Katie, to talk to you at this time when Elizabeth's book is re-emerging
Mm.
at a time when mine is emerging in a different form also is, I mean, how amazing can that be?
I'm surprised you haven't had any dreams with her yet about around,
Well,
but you did.
she's too busy. She was always, yeah.
So
Oh,
interesting thought, and I would like to hear your words on this. That as I was watching, her name was Dolores. As I was watching Dolores move through the process of dying, and I was there on Friday, and then I was there on Sunday. Even within those 48 hours, her body just had gotten so much smaller and almost like caving in. And it made me think of like if you could watch a piece of wood decay in the forest and you had a time lapse so you could see how a piece of wood or anything for that matter would decay over time and then become one with the earth again. It made me wonder at what point does the soul let go of the body? Like what's that friction point where it decides to just separate? Like, or is it that the heart stops and then the soul is ejected? Or is it like I'm so fascinated by that moment to which it does its thing.
okay, I'll take that. You've carried it to that dimension, and I'll carry it to the dimension of birthing into this process,
Okay.
which is what I would share with people as we were, and I with the birthing process. And for me, as I've said before, the moment when that baby takes its first breath, I hear the angels singing. I mean, there's some kind of divine energy that when you're listening for it, you can hear it, or you can feel it, or you can understand it, or you can just take it in, or whatever it is. It's that energy. It's the energy of love and life, which is connected. It, it's the same energy
Hmm?
that you're taking over into the next dimension, the way you brought it in when you took your first breath this time.
Hmm.
And it's that kind of a movement of life and love, so that we, as the only beings, living beings on this earth who have choice and free will, can be conscious at the time of birth and death. In
Mhm.
other words, it's that amazing process, which, if we choose, we could be present at the time of our death. We don't need to be medicated into foolishness or whatever we need to do. My sister's story was that she was 95, and no, she was 98, and she had been healthy, but she got the flu and she didn't get over it. So, about a week before she died, she got the flu and she made her transition. But what happened was that her youngest son and his wife were with her at the time. And as they were working with hospice and aware of what was happening, she began to sing. And she was singing hymns both in English and in Urdu. And periodically she would stop and she would say, "And Aya is here." And then she would pick it up again and start singing again. And instead of getting weaker and weaker and weaker, her voice got stronger.
Hmm.
And finally, as they were listening to her, she and Aya, with the drumming, moved into whatever that next dimension was. And for me, I could I could just picture it, because Aya was our, well, like she was our second mother. She helped raise us. And she taught us to play the dholak, which was the Indian drum that you played with both hands.
Mhm.
And Margaret learned how to play it really well. I didn't learn it so well because I couldn't sit still. But she learned really well, and I could just hear her and see her with Aya moving into the next dimension, singing and drumming as they cross that threshold. And to me, it's a comforting, joyous time, the same as not the same, but the same kind of energy as I feel when a baby takes its first
Hmm.
breath. It's it's the same kind of energy. It may not be the same, but it's the same kind of energy that's so important for us to understand its reality.
Hmm.
If we can begin to think about it as, boy, this is real.
Wow. Yeah. So was your sister, did she was on hospice care, but did they use morphine with her?
I don't think so. I don't think she required it. I
Mhm.
think she was just like, I don't know about your
Mother-in-law.
mother-in-law, but whatever it is, it's it's uh, it's okay. I mean, I don't think it's right or wrong. It
Yeah.
is what it is,
Yeah. She,
and and when it happens,
yeah.
it we accept it as the divine will, the divine energy, and love and life.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you another question about death since we're sort of going back and forth between death and birth. What are your thoughts on assisted death in countries and places where that's, legal?
I think it is what it is.
It's everybody's choice.
Yes, I think it's at that time and that place, it's the right thing.
Mm,
So why put right and wrong as our concept about what's happening to another person and what will happen to ourselves as a judgment on what happens to those we love, when we can actually just say, well, here it is.
right. Somebody just posted, I was with my mom when she passed, and a few days before, I heard my mom talking at 4:30 a.m. I stayed in my mom's room 24/7, and I could hear her talking, saying, "Get my jacket," and was saying it's the black one, and then I heard her say, "Hello, Mom, I am here." Oh, so she was maybe talking about her mother.
Yeah.
She was, yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. 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 It's just so interesting, all the different stories that get told and experienced around that energy of birth and dying.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
In a birth room more than a handful of times, not as many as you, and the same with death. And it is such a similar energy that encompasses the room and the place.
Absolutely, because it's so real.
Yeah.
When that baby takes that first breath, wow. And he gets his name or her name. If they're going to be named, sometimes parents don't have the name right on fingertips. But if you say, well, here comes Mary, you're, or you just accept and then say, accept the baby and then say, start trying to figure out what the name's going to be. But the point is that the baby has taken its first breath and
Mm-hmm.
become from femifesting for 9 months or however, it now manifests into the person that will become this lifetime. Isn't it awesome?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the same with the same kind of uh, love and connection, we can do the same process as we let the baby who is now grown and uh, lived the life and ready to move on, as they move into the next dimension, and we allow that to be a normal,
Mm-hmm.
natural, loving flow of life and love.
Yeah, and that's what this particular thing was. She died in her bed, in her bedroom, and people had come and gone and visited and said their goodbyes, and it was really beautiful.
It's
Really, really.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I have another esoteric question
All right.
about the soul. Have you heard the term when there's like a walk-in, when like oh, is that the term? Like when the soul doesn't inhabit the body until later.
Oh,
Maybe I.
yes, that happens. I've had that happen. I had a 16-year-old girl who didn't remember. Oh, well, she couldn't understand whether she was going to keep the baby or adopt the baby out. And
Okay.
so when the baby was born, I asked about the name, and she said she can't come up with a name because she doesn't know whether she's going to, whether what she was going to do about this. She's 16
Yeah.
and not married, and what's she going to do? She going to adopt the baby, and so on. Well, she took the baby home with her, and I asked her to come in to see me for 6 weeks after that, because the baby was breathing and doing it, her saying whatever it was, but her mother had named her. She, when you looked at the baby's eyes, her soul wasn't completely there. So this baby had not been, I'd never had this kind of an experience before, but this baby had not accepted her dimension on
Mhm.
being in this dimension because her mother hadn't accepted her. And so the time, 6 weeks that went on, I had her come in every week, and the baby just wasn't there. And the mother knew it. She was nursing the baby and doing everything. But ba- so, but when she came in and she was 6 weeks old, that baby, and the mother had named her, that soul was there.
And it was that visible to you.
Oh, absolutely. Because when you look into the eyes of a newborn baby, you know that baby's looking at you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that wasn't the experience with this baby before the 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow,
No.
that's so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she ended up keeping the baby.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I've had a wonderful relationship with that baby. I mean, I had the opportunity to follow her as she grew up,
Oh,
but it was a lovely, lovely family.
oh, that's great. Somebody, let me scroll back here somebody had a question. Hold on, let me see where it went. Okay. This is off the topic that we're talking about, but that's
Yeah.
okay. I wish you would tell me how to get rid of stress. I just can't help it. I have tried to stop thinking, but it just gets worse. It's affecting my body so badly. I feel pain in my overall body.
Well, what is it that you would really like to feel?
Okay, let's see if they respond. I mean, stress, it's really like stress never, there's always going to be stress. Stress never is going to go away.
No.
So it's
So
figuring.
what is it that when you're talking about stress, you obviously can explain that, but what I'm asking you is what is it you would like to feel?
Mm, okay, well, we'll have to wait and
So
see.
yeah, so put your energy into what it is that you are wanting to feel. What the light, the love, the whatever it is, the joy, the dance, the song, whatever it is that you can imagine, not fully, because you have to take it in bits and pieces.
Mm,
You don't have to, you can. And as you begin to think about life and love and joy uh, and music, and the sun comes up and the moon comes up, and all of the things that do actually happen, and the things that happen in your life that you see every day, if you're looking for them.
mm,
But if you're looking for the stress, you'll find it, because it's right there.
right.
And we all have it. And our muscles and our necks and our eyes and our bodies feel it when we are hanging on to it so tightly that we can't let go of it.
Mm,
So surround yourself with music that is joyous. Surround yourself with pictures that are happy, or what. Now, I'm not even going to tell you what to do. Find something that you find to be joyous, something that you recognize as hope, something that you read that talks about hope,
mm,
something that words that aren't the words that are hanging on to you right now, but words that you may have to look up in the dictionary about hope and happiness and joy and dancing and singing and the whole process of moving out of darkness into light. Think about what happens when you open your front door. When you open your front door, you let who do you let in?
done.
What's coming in your door? You know, do something like some active part of your body
Mm,
that is moving and alive and aware that you know. I mean, it may hurt. It may be that your muscles are painful and so on, but they're trying to tell you that they're there. And so you're in the process of communicating with them, but you can tell them to come with you as you walked out the door,
mm,
or you could come with me as I'm dancing and singing, or whatever. Let me tell you, the other day, uh, I have this great grand family. The family, they have Jamie, who is 3, and Ian, who is 4, and Maggie May, who is 6, and then the mother and the father and the grandmother. And they were listening to Taylor Swift songs,
mm.
and they know her songs. And so on this day, spontaneously, they pulled all the furniture back, and the whole family was dancing to the songs of Taylor Swift and singing. And I thought, those children will have that memory that they can always go back to.
Mm,
And so in that family, they were creating a memory. Well, if you don't have a memory like that, maybe it's time you started creating it. I'm talking to the patient,
yeah,
the person that
yeah,
asks the question.
yeah. Create those new memories for yourself and those neural pathways that you can jump
Right.
in. Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because last week I was trying to get my garage ready so I could lead my first art medicine workshop in my garage on my, by my house. And it was super stressful because I was relying on my son to do the physical, like put windows in and that kind of stuff. And he was on his own timeline, which was not my timeline. And it was super frustrating. And I was really struggling with coping with it all. And that's when I rolled my ankle and snapped my fibula. And so I know that, like, I'm really clear that me snapping my fibula was a release valve for the stress that I was generating and creating in my body. And I too, in the moment, couldn't really stop myself. I knew that it was going to be for a purpose, but I knew that I just couldn't seem to get a hold of it and like let myself just go with the process. And so afterwards, we had the workshop, the retreat, it was great, but it was interesting because it was the most rain we've had. Like the day that the retreat happened, it was a deluge of rain. And soaking and it was cold. And so it was like everything, you know, it was kind of adverse conditions. And I was talking to my friend afterwards who does the zero balancing, and she's all about zero balancing is, you know, it's all about the field, the energetic
Yeah.
field in the body and around us. And she said, well, it's interesting because the field that was created the week before the workshop had a lot of tension. It had a lot of stress. And that stress and tension also enabled people in the retreat to have transformational breakthroughs. So
Uh-huh.
that friction is needed for the pearl to appear, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so it was just interesting because while it was all happening, I couldn't see that. But then in retrospect, I was able to look at it. And so she said, so now will you be able to thank your son for helping create that tensional field? And I was like, well, not yet, but I will be. Uh, but it was
Yeah.
an interesting way to shift a perspective, because that's all we have is perspective.
Yeah, actually, when I when Bill asked for a divorce, I was stuck with
Yeah.
that. I was so in pain. I was so broken. I was so stuck with it until I realized that what he did was give me my
Mm,
freedom so that I could reclaim who I was, because up until that time, it was always Bill and Gladys. Now it had to be Dr. Gladys. I was never the one who took the four,
yeah,
the the this was me.
right.
Yeah. And so when I claimed that, I was able to step forward and accept my freedom. And so when you um, are so um, bound down with the uh, process of living a life that is hard and productive and important and all the rest of the things that you have in your own life process, and you can let that be what it will be and move forward so that it becomes what it can become,
Mm,
you know, like moving into birth or death, either that kind of a dimension.
mm-hmm.
You let part of your process die so that the other part of it can be born.
Interesting. Yeah, and so with that, this, you know, we just moved into the eclipse season, right? So on Monday was the full moon lunar eclipse, and then on the 8th is the solar, the full solar eclipse,
Uh-huh.
which happened. And that's all about release. And so I do think it's so synchronistic and interesting that your books are doing this piggyback thing in that window of the death and dying and the birth and the new. Yeah, it's super cool.
And feel with me the joy of having to have Elizabeth Kubler-Ross speaking with me now. I mean, it's that kind of a amazing life process
Mm,
with her love and concern and all the things that she brought to this dimension as a friend for me to
yeah,
actually recognize that. uh, it brings tears to my eyes
absolutely.
with so much joy. And the fact that Rose was able to talk to her son and realize what was happening with her book right now.
That's so great. And have you spoken to her son? Do you have a relationship with him?
No, I haven't. He's someplace in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
But Rose did.
Yeah.
And so I got it from Rose because Rose knew Elizabeth too. I mean, Rose and Elizabeth were good friends too.
Oh, got it. Okay. And for everybody who doesn't know, Rose is not only is she a deep, dear friend to you, but she is also, what's her title?
The executive director of the Foundation
Right.
for
Okay.
Living Medicine. Yeah.
Sorry, Rose, that I didn't know that exactly. I knew she was a head honcho, but I wasn't what, well, wow. So good.
Yeah.
And in the spiritual tradition, Christianity,
Yeah.
I mean, this is all about the death and the rebirth this week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's so good. So good.
Yep.
Oh, well, okay. We never got any thing back from that person who had asked that question. Let me just quickly look. Yeah, no, nothing more. Okay.
Well, she'll take what she can and work with it. And that's her choice, and it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So great. So great. Well, do you have any last parting words for the week or anything else you want to discuss before we sign off and I start my afternoon of patience?
No, I think life is a smooth flowing thing if we can have it that way. But if it's not, let's jump right into what it's going to be.
Mm. And know that it's all
Yeah.
for you. It's happening for you, not to you.
Right.
If,
Yeah.
if we
Or at you.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. So taking what is in front of you and taking that in and utilizing it in the best way that you can.
Yeah. Using each breath to be moving us forward into love and life.
Love it. Well, on that note, I will bid you adieu and wish everybody whether you are a Christian or not, celebrating the full moon, the lunar eclipse, the start of spring, the Easter week here, Ramadan. There's so many things happening right now.
Right.
So just wishing you the best week. And I'm so happy that you were having all of your children to gather and be around you for the holiday.
Well, not all of them, but yeah, yeah,
Wait,
absolutely.
all right.
All right. Happy
Okay.
Easter, everybody.
Thank you for being here. We so appreciate you. And yeah, love to all.
Love to all.
John, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Great week, and I will talk next week, next Tuesday.
All
We'll
right.
be same place, same time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Love. Okay, bye.